at least this semester. Normally, this presentation takes an hour, so you're going to get the Iraq War in 20 minutes. It'll be light speed. And speaking of positives, the two positives here. One, turning a negative into a positive. General Petraeus' affair meant that since he was no longer the head of the CIA, he could now write the foreword to my book. So the good from the bad. And the second thing is Serge has just been named a finalist for the Guggenheim Military History Prize. Which comes with a prize of $50,000. Yeah. Unfortunately, I just published it in the same year that Rick Atkinson published the final book in his trilogy of World War II, so it might be a little tough to win it. So what went wrong in Iraq? Well, first was the assumption that it would be a war of liberation, that the Iraqis would cooperate once we had toppled Saddam Hussein and his forces. And then when that didn't turn out to be the case, because a significant portion of Iraqis, or a significant minority at any rate, benefited from Saddam Hussein's regime and weren't exactly happy that we toppled him, we extended that error by failing to plan for an extended occupation. We planned for a best case where the Iraqis would, basically the Iraqi state would remain intact. We'd get rid of Saddam and his family and their closest associates, but that the civil servants would all remain in place, the government would remain in place. And when it didn't, when it collapsed, we had no plan to do anything in terms of an occupation. There was extensive de-Baathification. Jerry Bremer decided to get rid of not just the top tiers of the Ba'ath Party, which would have gotten rid of maybe 500 Baathists, which probably would have been okay, but he went down to the fourth level of the Ba'ath Party, which got rid of 40,000 to 50,000 civil servants, university professors, engineers, doctors, lawyers, all the same people that we thought would remain in their positions to run the state once Saddam Hussein left. We disbanded the Iraqi army, which not only meant that there was a lack of troops to help us secure places on the ground, but also it put out of work all those people that no longer wore the uniform, and they all took their weapons home with them. So now you had a lot of unemployed, armed young men on the streets, and the officers, most of whom were Sunni, were highly incensed because we took away not only their jobs but their pensions. We made it impossible for people who had been members of the Ba'ath Party to participate in the political life of the nation. And this, to the Sunnis, meant that not only were we there to topple Saddam, but we were there to de-Sunnify Iraq, that we were going to advantage the Shiites and the Kurds, and the Sunnis wouldn't have a place in the new Iraq. And with two strokes of a pen, the de-Baathification decree and the decree disbanding the Iraqi army, L. Paul Bremer III created the military and political basis for the insurgency. And it's my contention that we created the insurgency, which would have been small and easily suppressed otherwise.
Colonel, one thing I don't see on this list is the enemy and whether we actively destroyed their men, money, and materials, particularly coming in from outside like Iran.
We'll get to that. This is why the insurgency started.
Why the insurgency?
Right. We weren't very good at counterinsurgency going into the Iraq War. It wasn't something we trained for. It wasn't something we put a lot of doctrinal thought into. We were a force that was very good at tactics and operations and not very good at thinking strategically. There's General Franks there. General T-Rex, kill something and eat it. And that pretty much sums up our operational concept going into Iraq. Well, once we were there,